Standing in my pottery studio with clay-stained hands, I heard my son planning to destroy my life over Thanksgiving dinner. But let me back up, because you need to understand who they thought they were dealing with. My name is Catherine Sullivan Thompson, Katie to my friends, and I've been walking this desert earth for 7 decades. I'm not some fragile flower wilting under the Arizona sun. I'm a retired chemistry teacher who spent 38 years turning teenage minds into scientific thinkers. I survived raising a son as a single mother while my husband Robert fought fires across Tucson. I buried the love of my life 5 years ago when lung cancer finally claimed him. I am not someone you underestimate, but that's exactly what my family did. Welcome back to Granny Dorothy's Stories. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Your support truly encourages me to continue sharing these incredible tales with you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love hearing from my sweethearts around the world. My adobe ranch house sits on 2 desert paradise of desert Robert and I cultivated for 30 years. Every saguaro cactus, every palo verde tree, every succulent in my garden tells a story of our love. The pottery studio he built for me in the converted garage is where I create art that actually sells at local galleries now. This was supposed to be my sanctuary. My golden years filled with clay spinning on the wheel, hiking groups through the red rocks, book clubs at the library. Instead, it became the target for my son's greed. The first sign something was wrong came 6 months ago. Daniel started calling more often than our usual Sunday check-ins, always with the same theme. Mom, it's just so hot down there in Tucson. Are you staying hydrated? Are you remembering to check your air conditioning filters? This place is really getting to be a lot for you. The desert landscaping, the pool maintenance, all these rooms to keep clean. He'd stand in my pottery studio, looking around with what I now realize was calculating eyes. This is a nice hobby, Mom, but do you really need all this space for it? Think of what you could do with a smaller place. A nice condo in Phoenix, closer to family. Melissa would chime in during these visits, her yoga instructor voice smooth and persuasive. We know this beautiful retirement community, Katie. It has everything. Activities, medical staff on site, no worries about maintenance or emergencies. They made it sound like I was one broken hip away from death in the desert. The truth is, I was thriving. My pottery was selling better than ever. I was hiking 3 times a week with a group of friends my age who could outpace people half our age. I was substitute teaching chemistry at the local community college and loving every minute of it. But somehow, in their eyes, I was declining. The real alarm bells should have started ringing when Daniel casually mentioned updating my will. Mom, Dad's been gone 5 years now. Have you thought about updating your estate planning? Making sure everything's current? When I told him Robert's attorney had handled everything and it was all up to date, Daniel pressed harder. But things change, Mom. Tax laws, real estate values. I actually know an excellent estate attorney in Phoenix, specializes in seniors. He could review everything, make sure you're protected. Protected? From what? From my own son, as it turned out. That's when I called my sister Helen in San Diego. Helen is 3 years older than me, sharp as a tack, and has never been one to mince words. Katie, honey, she said after I'd filled her in on Daniel's increasing concern for my well-being, have you considered that this isn't about your well-being at all? What do you mean? I mean, how much is that house worth now? How much did Robert leave you? Because it sounds to me like your son has dollar signs in his eyes. I tried to defend Daniel. He was my only child, after all. But Helen's words planted a seed of doubt that started growing. That's when I decided to start documenting things. Not because I suspected anything. I'm a scientist, I believe in data. I started keeping a notebook in my pottery studio. Every phone call, every request for money, every comment about my living situation. The entries mounted alarmingly fast. September 15th, Emma needs $300 for textbooks, transferred immediately. September 20th, Tyler's car needs repairs, $550, helped because he needs it for work. October 3, Daniel suggests I get house appraised for insurance purposes. October 10, Melissa asks detailed questions about my monthly expenses, savings accounts. October 18th, Emma needs $200 for art exhibition entry fees. By November, I'd given my grandchildren over $2,000, and my son had asked me to consider 3 different Phoenix retirement communities. The pieces were falling into place, but I still couldn't see the full picture. That would come on the phone call that changed everything. This chemistry teacher is about to do some investigating. Hit that like button and subscribe if you're ready to see her break down their scheme. Helen's visit in early November was a wake-up call. She spent 3 days with me, watching, listening, paying attention to things I'd been too close to see. "Katie," she said after Daniel and Melissa's latest visit, "they spent more time asking about your finances than asking about your health. Did you notice that?" I hadn't, but Helen had. "And those grandkids of yours? When's the last time they called just to talk? Not to ask for money? Just to talk?" I couldn't remember. That's when Helen said something that hit me like a truck. "Honey, I think you need professional help with this." Not the kind of professional help Daniel had been suggesting, the kind that protects people like me from people like him. Through my network at the university, once a teacher, always connected to other teachers, I found someone who could help. Dr. Maria Santos, a former student of mine who'd become a social worker, recommended a private investigator who specialized in financial elder abuse. His name was Tom Bradley, a retired police detective who'd seen too many families destroy themselves over money. "Mrs. Thompson," he said when I met him at his modest office near the university, "what you're describing is unfortunately very common. Adult children who see their aging parents as their inheritance are getting impatient." Tom was thorough and professional. He explained that Arizona is a one-party consent state for recording conversations, meaning if I agreed to record my calls with Daniel, it would be perfectly legal. "We'll also do some basic surveillance. See if your son has been meeting with attorneys, real estate agents, facility administrators. People don't usually plan these things alone." For 2 weeks, Tom worked his quiet magic. What he discovered made my blood run cold. Daniel had contacted 6 different assisted living facilities in the Phoenix area over the past 3 months. 6. He'd told them all that I was experiencing confusion due to desert isolation and needed to be closer to family support. Desert isolation, like living in the home I'd shared with my husband for 30 years, was some form of mental illness. But the worst discovery came from Tom's surveillance of Daniel and Melissa's weekly coffee meetings at a Starbucks in Scottsdale. "They meet every Thursday at 10 a.m., Tom reported, his voice grim. "Same table, same time. They bring notebooks, legal pads, and calculators. This isn't casual conversation, Mrs. Thompson. This is planning." Tom had positioned himself at nearby tables, recording their conversations with equipment that looked like a normal laptop setup. The transcripts he showed me were devastating. "The timing has to be perfect. Thanksgiving weekend, when she's already here, already comfortable. The attorney says family holidays are ideal. People are more emotional, more trusting." "And you're sure about the confusion angle? The facilities bought it?" "Completely. I told them she's been forgetting things, getting confused about directions, showing signs of heat-related cognitive decline. Very believable for someone her age living alone in the desert." Heat-related cognitive decline. My own son was inventing medical conditions to justify stealing my life. "Melissa, once we get the power of attorney signed, how long before we can list the house?" "The attorney says we should wait a few weeks, make it look like a gradual decision. But honestly, the Tucson market is so hot right now, we could have it sold by January." "And her pottery stuff?" "Donation pickup. Maybe keep a few pieces for sentimental value, but most of it's just taking up space." "Just taking up space. My art, my passion, my connection to Robert's memory, just taking up space." "What about the kids? Do we tell them before the weekend?" "No. Keep Emma and Tyler out of it for now. They don't need to know the details until after it's done. Kids get emotional about this stuff." So the grandchildren weren't part of the conspiracy. They were just young adults asking for help from their grandmother, not knowing their parents were orchestrating my downfall behind the scenes. The recordings continued for pages. They discussed my bank accounts, my retirement funds, and my life insurance policies. They had researched the cheapest assisted living facilities in Phoenix, calculating how little they could spend on my care, while maximizing what they could pocket. They had planned everything down to the smallest detail. Everything except for one small oversight that would bring their house of cards crashing down. The audacity of these people. If you're as furious as I am right now, make sure you're subscribed, because this revenge is about to be legendary. Armed with Tom's evidence, I spent sleepless nights planning my own strategy. But first, I needed to let them make their move. I needed them to reveal the full scope of their betrayal. The call came on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Daniel's voice was unusually warm, almost giddy with excitement. "Mom, are you all set for Thursday? We're so excited to have you here for the whole weekend." "I'm looking forward to it too, sweetheart," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging in my chest. "I've been working on pottery gifts for everyone, and I'm bringing my famous sweet potato casserole." "That's wonderful, Mom, and remember, we wanted to talk to you about some family things while you're here. Important stuff, but nothing to worry about. Just some planning for the future." Planning for the future. If only he knew how accurately he was speaking. "Of course, Daniel. Whatever you think is best." "Great. Oh, and Mom, maybe pack enough for a few extra days. We're thinking it might be nice to have you stay through the weekend, maybe even into next week. Quality family time, you know? Quality family time. With their attorney, no doubt." "That sounds lovely, dear. I'll pack accordingly." After I hung up, I sat in my pottery studio, surrounded by the pieces I'd created over the years. Bowls Robert had eaten cereal from, vases that had held flowers from our garden, sculptures that captured the desert light in clay form. They thought these were just taking up space. I spent that Tuesday and Wednesday making my own preparations, but not the kind Daniel was expecting. I called my own attorney, Robert's old friend Jack Morrison, who'd handled our affairs for 20 years. "Jack, I need to update my will immediately, and I need to transfer some assets around. Can you meet me tomorrow morning?" "Of course, Katie. Everything is all right?" "Everything's about to be." Wednesday morning, I spent 3 hours in Jack's office. New will, new power of attorney designations, going to Helen, not Daniel, new beneficiary forms for all my accounts. "Katie," Jack said as I signed the final documents, "are you sure about this? This is a pretty dramatic change." "Jack, I'm a chemistry teacher. I believe in reactions. Sometimes you have to add the right catalyst to get the results you want." That afternoon, I loaded my car with wrapped pottery gifts and my famous sweet potato casserole, but I also loaded it with my most precious possessions, my important documents, and enough clothes for more than a weekend, because I had no intention of ever coming back to Daniel's house. I drove halfway to Phoenix and checked into a hotel near Sedona. Then I called Daniel. "Hi, sweetheart. I'm running a little late. Started feeling a bit dizzy on the drive, so I'm stopping to rest for a bit. Don't worry about me. Just start dinner without me if I'm too late." "Mom, are you okay? Do you need us to come get you?" The concern in his voice would have been touching if I didn't know it was purely financial. No, I'm fine. Just be cautious. You know how it is at my age." At my age. I was done hearing that phrase. "I'll see you soon," I lied. Then I turned off my phone and waited. Get ready for the most satisfying confrontation ever. If you're ready to watch this queen destroy her ungrateful family, make sure you're subscribed. While Daniel and his family waited for me to arrive for my own ambush, I was in my hotel room putting the final pieces of my plan into motion. I called Tom Bradley. "It's time," I told him. "Are you ready?" "Mrs. Thompson, I've been documenting financial elder abuse for 15 years. I've never been more ready for anything in my life." Thursday morning, Thanksgiving morning, Tom positioned himself outside Daniel's house. He had a clear view of the driveway and the front entrance. At 11 a.m., a silver sedan pulled up. A man in an expensive suit got out, carrying a briefcase and a leather portfolio. The attorney Daniel had hired to steal my life. Tom photographed everything. The man enters the house, shaking hands with Daniel, being introduced to Melissa and the kids. Setting up paperwork on the dining room table where my Thanksgiving dinner was supposed to be served. At noon, my phone started ringing. "Mom, where are you? We're starting to worry." I let it go to voicemail. "Katie, honey, please call us back. We have everything ready for you. Everything is ready, including the legal documents to sign my life away." Grandma, we're all here waiting for you. Tyler made your favorite green bean casserole. That was a lie. Tyler had never made anything more complicated than instant ramen in his life. 1:30 p.m. Gran, seriously, call us back. Mom and Dad are freaking out. By 2 p.m., the calls were coming every 10 minutes. The voicemails were getting more frantic, more desperate. At 3 p.m., Tom called me. Mrs. Thompson, the attorney just left. He looked frustrated. Your son is pacing in his driveway, talking on his phone very animatedly. Perfect, I said. Phase 2 begins now. I turned my phone back on and called Daniel. Daniel? I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I've been to the emergency room. What? Mom, are you okay? What happened? Oh, just a little dizzy spell that got worse. The doctors here in Sedona want to keep me overnight for observation. Nothing serious, but you know how they are with people my age. There it was again. My age, used as a weapon. Sedona? Mom, what are you doing in Sedona? Well, I was feeling dizzy on the drive up to Phoenix, so I stopped here to rest. Then it got worse, so I came to the hospital. I'm perfectly fine now, but they insist on keeping me until tomorrow. The silence on the other end was deafening. Daniel? Are you there? Yes, Mom, we're just relieved you're okay, so you won't be able to make it today? I'm afraid not, sweetheart. I know you had something important to discuss with me, but it'll have to wait. Another long pause. Well, the important thing is that you're safe. We can talk about family things another time. Of course, dear. Give my love to everyone. I'll call you tomorrow when I'm released. After I hung up, I sat back against the hotel pillows and smiled for the first time in months. They'd shown their hands. They'd hired an attorney, set up the ambush, gathered the family to witness my signing away of everything Robert and I had built. And I'd left them sitting at their Thanksgiving table with their untouched legal documents and their exposed greed. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Thanksgiving just got served with a side of justice. If you're loving every second of this, make sure you're sharing. Friday morning, Black Friday, how fitting. I began the systematic destruction of their carefully laid plans. First call, Tom Bradley. Tom, it's time to execute phase 2. Are you ready? More than ready, Mrs. Thompson. Your son's attorney has been calling him all morning. They're panicking. Good. Send the letters. Tom had prepared legal notices to Daniel, Melissa, and their attorney. Not from me, from his investigation firm, documenting their meetings, their recorded conversations, their attempts to defraud an elderly person. The letters were delivered by certified mail to Daniel's real estate office, Melissa's yoga studio, and the attorney's law firm. At the same time, Jack Morrison was executing my new will and trust arrangements. Everything I owned, the house, the savings, the retirement accounts, Robert's life insurance, was being transferred into a trust with Helen as trustee. Daniel wasn't getting a penny. Instead, my estate would go to causes Robert and I had always supported. A scholarship fund for future chemistry teachers at the University of Arizona, a support fund for firefighter families dealing with occupational illness, and an arts program for senior citizens. My pottery collection would go to the university's art department, where students could learn from pieces Robert and I had created together over 30 years. The house would be sold, but not to benefit Daniel's real estate portfolio. The proceeds would fund the Robert Thompson Memorial Desert Garden at the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum. Every single thing they'd planned to steal would instead honor the memory of the man they'd never truly appreciated. The calls started around noon. Daniel, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. Mom, I got a very strange letter today from some investigative firm. They're claiming I've been planning to defraud you somehow. This is ridiculous. I let him spin his lies for a few minutes before I spoke. Daniel, I know about the attorney. I know about the Thursday meetings at Starbucks. I know about the assisted living facilities you contacted. I know everything. The silence was so complete, I thought the call had dropped. Mom, I don't know what you think you know, but I know you told Sunshine Manor that I have heat-related cognitive decline. I know you told Desert Oaks that I'm confused due to desert isolation. I know you've been planning to have me declared incompetent so you could steal my house and warehouse me in the cheapest facility you could find. That's not. We weren't. Mom, you're confused. I'm not confused, Daniel. I'm a retired chemistry teacher with 38 years of experience recognizing when someone is trying to feed me a load of bullshit. The profanity felt good, liberating. And here's what's going to happen now, I continued. You're going to leave me alone. Completely alone. No more calls about my living situation, no more suggestions about retirement communities, no more fake concern about my well-being. Mom, please. Because if you don't, I will release those recordings to every real estate client you've ever had, every member of Melissa's yoga community, and every person who's ever trusted you with anything important. The desperation in his voice was almost pathetic. Almost. You're destroying our family. No, Daniel. You destroyed our family when you decided I was worth more to you in a nursing home than in my own house. I'm just making sure you can't profit from that decision. I hung up. Melissa called 10 minutes later, tears in her voice, begging me to reconsider, claiming they'd never meant any harm. Emma called crying, saying she didn't know what her parents were planning, that she just needed help with school. Tyler called angry, demanding to know why I was being so mean to his parents. I blocked all their numbers. Justice has been served. If this is the most satisfying thing you've ever heard, make sure you're subscribed. But here's the part of the story I haven't told you yet. The part that made everything crystal clear and gave me the strength to follow through with my nuclear revenge. It happened the week before Thanksgiving. The call that was supposed to be about finalizing dinner plans, but became the most devastating conversation of my life. I was in my pottery studio, working on a vase, when Daniel called. We talked about the usual things, what time I should arrive, what I should bring, how excited everyone was to see me. Oh, and Mom, he said as we were wrapping up, remember we wanted to discuss some family planning things while you're here. Nothing major, just some updates to make sure you're protected. Protected? That word again. Of course, sweetheart. Whatever you think is best. Great, we'll have plenty of time to go over everything. Love you, Mom. Love you too, Daniel. And then I heard a click. Or what I thought was a click. I started to put my phone down, my mind already moving on to the next pottery piece I wanted to work on. But the call hadn't ended. I could hear voices. Distant at first, then clearer as someone, Daniel, I realized, moved closer to wherever he'd carelessly set his phone. Did she buy it? Melissa's voice, sharp and impatient. Hook, line, and sinker, Daniel replied, his tone utterly transformed. Gone was the warm, caring sun. In its place was someone cold, calculating, contemptuous. She's so excited about Thanksgiving, she has no idea what's coming. My blood turned to ice water. And Henderson confirmed he'll be there Thursday? Melissa again. Yep, he'll arrive after dinner to make it seem casual. Family estate planning, very normal. By Sunday, we'll have power of attorney, and she'll be agreeing to your temporary assisted living options. What if she resists? Daniel laughed, a cold, harsh sound I'd never heard from my son before. Mom's soft, Melissa, always has been. A little guilt about being a burden on us, a little pressure about her safety living alone in the desert, and she'll fold. She always does. Soft. A burden. The words hit me like physical blows. Besides, Daniel continued, Henderson says once we document her confusion and poor judgment about living alone at her age, the guardianship paperwork will be a formality. And the house? Listed by Christmas, sold by February. The market's insane right now. We're looking at close to $400,000, maybe more. Emma's voice chimed in, my artistic granddaughter who I'd been so proud to support. What about all her pottery stuff? There's like a whole studio full of it. Donation pickup, Daniel said dismissively. Maybe we'll keep a few pieces for sentimental value, but honestly, most of it's just clutter. She's been making the same desert-themed bowls for years. Clutter. My art, my passion, my way of staying connected to Robert's memory. Clutter. Tyler spoke up, his young voice casual and cruel. What about the car? Think we can sell it? Probably, Melissa answered. She won't need it where she's going. We looked at that place in Phoenix. They have a shuttle for appointments. Perfect, Daniel said. The less independence she has, the less trouble she can cause. The conversation continued, but I was no longer hearing words. Just sounds. Meaningless noise from people who had been systematically planning the destruction of my life while smiling to my face and calling it love. They talked about my bank accounts like line items in a budget. They discussed my jewelry being liquidated. They planned my future like I was already dead, and they were just waiting for the paperwork to catch up. The worst moment came when Melissa said, "You know, I almost feel bad about this. She really does think we love her." "We do love her," Daniel replied, and for a split second my heart leaped with hope. "We love what she can do for us. This house, Dad's life insurance, her teacher's pension, she's sitting on a gold mine and just letting it waste away on pottery and desert plants. Love what she can do for us." That's when I knew. They didn't see me as a mother, a grandmother, a person. They saw me as an asset to be liquidated. The call finally ended when someone, probably Melissa, noticed Daniel's phone was still connected and hung up. I sat in my pottery studio, surrounded by 30 years of my creativity, holding my phone like it had turned into a venomous snake. That conversation changed everything. It gave me the courage to hire Tom Bradley. It gave me the strength to plan my counterattack. It gave me the cold, clear certainty that my family had declared war on me first. I was just finishing what they started. The betrayal is unbelievable. If hearing your own family plan your destruction would destroy you too, make sure you're subscribed. The days following my Thanksgiving no-show were chaos for Daniel and his family. I know because Tom Bradley was still monitoring them, and Helen was keeping me updated on every delicious detail. Daniel had apparently spent Black Friday weekend frantically calling attorneys, trying to find a way around the fact that I was legally competent and had every right to change my will and trust arrangements. The problem with their plan had always been its foundation. I wasn't actually confused, isolated, or incompetent. I was just generous and trusting. And once that trust was broken, their house of cards collapsed. Melissa called her yoga clients to cancel classes for a week, claiming a family emergency. The family emergency being that their meal ticket had just burned itself up. Emma and Tyler, meanwhile, were learning what life looked like without Grandma's bank of unlimited funding. Emma had to drop out of an expensive pottery workshop she'd signed up for. Tyler's plans for a spring break trip to Mexico evaporated when his parents suddenly couldn't afford to help. Justice served cold. But I wasn't content to just sit in my Sedona hotel room and watch their world crumble from a distance. I had my own new world to build. I spent the weekend house hunting in Sedona. Not for a retirement facility, for a new home. A smaller place, yes, but one with space for a pottery studio and a garden where I could grow the desert plants I loved. Monday morning, I made an offer on a beautiful adobe house with mountain views and a detached casita perfect for my art. The seller, a widow like myself who was moving to be closer to her daughter, accepted immediately. "I love that it's going to someone who appreciates what we built here," she told me. "My husband would be so happy to know his workshop is becoming an art studio." While I was building my new life, Jack Morrison was executing the legal dismantling of Daniel's expectations. The Tucson house went on the market Wednesday, priced to sell quickly. Daniel called my old number 17 times that day, trying to reach me. When he finally got through to Jack's office, the conversation was brief and brutal. "Mr. Thompson, your mother is no longer interested in family discussions about her future. All communications should go through this office." "But she can't just sell the house. We had an understanding." "You had expectations," Jack corrected. "Your mother had property rights. She's exercising them." The house sold in 4 days, cash offer, closing in 2 weeks. Every penny went into the trust Helen was managing, earmarked for the charities and scholarships Robert and I had always supported. Daniel wouldn't see a dime. I moved into my new Sedona home on December 15th. The moving truck arrived at my old house while Daniel was apparently watching from his car across the street, trying to figure out how to stop something that was already over. He followed the truck to Sedona. The confrontation I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure finally came. She's building a new life while theirs falls apart. If you believe in fresh starts, make sure you're subscribed. Share this story with your family and friends. Daniel showed up at my new front door on December 16th, looking like he'd aged 5 years and 3 weeks. His usually perfect real estate developer appearance was disheveled, his confidence replaced by desperation. "Mom, we need to talk." I looked at my son and felt nothing but profound sadness. "Daniel, there's nothing left to talk about." Yes, there is. This is insane. You're destroying our family over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I stepped aside to let him in. You call plotting to have me declared incompetent a misunderstanding? We were worried about you, living alone in that house in the desert at your age. Stop. Just stop with the lies, Daniel. I heard you. I heard everything. Planning to ambush me at Thanksgiving dinner, discussing which assisted living facility would be cheapest, calling my art clutter. His face went white. You? How did you? You forgot to hang up the phone properly. I heard every cruel word, every calculated plan, every contemptuous laugh. Daniel sank into my sofa, his head in his hands. For a moment, he looked like the little boy who used to cry when he scraped his knees. Then he looked up, and I saw not remorse, but anger. Fine. Yes, we were planning to help you make better decisions. But it was for your own good, Mom. The big picture being your inheritance. You're 74 years old. You could have a stroke tomorrow. We were trying to protect the family assets. Protect them from whom? From me? They're my assets, Daniel. Mine and your father's. Dad would want us to be practical. Don't you dare invoke your father to justify this betrayal. Robert spent 30 years fighting fires so that I would never be dependent on anyone, including you. But you are dependent on us. Who's going to take care of you when you get really old? I'm not your responsibility, Daniel. I'm your mother. There's a difference. This is ridiculous. He stood up, pacing my new living room like a caged animal. You can't just cut us out of your life. We're your family. No, Daniel. Family doesn't plot to steal from each other. Family doesn't lie and manipulate and plan ambushes. You stopped being my family the moment you decided I was worth more to you in a nursing home than in my own house. We never said nursing home. Assisted living, nursing home, whatever you want to call the cheapest facility you could find in Phoenix. You researched them all, remember? I have the records. His face flushed red. You had us investigated? Your own son? I protect myself from people who were planning to defraud me. The fact that those people happen to share my DNA makes it more tragic, not less criminal. Criminal, Mom. We're not criminals. Elder abuse is a felony in Arizona, Daniel. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Conspiracy to commit guardianship fraud. Should I continue? For the first time since he'd arrived, Daniel looked genuinely scared. You wouldn't. I won't have to. Because you're going to leave me alone. Completely alone. No more calls, no more visits, no more concern for my well-being. You gave up the right to worry about me when you decided to profit from that worry. And if we don't? I walked to my new desk and pulled out a thick manila folder. Then Tom Bradley releases everything to the Arizona Attorney General's office, the Better Business Bureau, your real estate licensing board, and every local news station that might be interested in a story about a successful businessman who tried to steal his elderly mother's home. Daniel stared at the folder like it contained explosives. You're bluffing. Try me. We stood there for a long moment, mother and son, staring at each other across a chasm that could never be bridged. Finally, Daniel's shoulders sagged in defeat. This isn't how I wanted things to go. Then you shouldn't have planned to steal my life. He walked through the door, then turned back one last time. I hope you're happy, Mom, living here all alone, with no family. I looked around my beautiful new home, filled with my pottery, my books, my memories of Robert. Through the window, I could see red rock formations that took my breath away every morning. I'm not alone, Daniel. I'm free. After he left, I sat in my new living room and cried. Not for what I'd lost, but for what I'd never actually had. A son who loved me for who I was, not what I could give him. But the tears didn't last long. I had a new life to build. 2 years have passed since that devastating Thanksgiving that never happened, and I'm writing this from my pottery studio in Sedona, surrounded by more beauty and peace than I ever imagined possible. My new life isn't just better than my old one. It's a masterpiece I painted from scratch. The house Daniel was so eager to steal became the seed money for something magnificent. The Robert Thompson Memorial Desert Garden at the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum opened last spring, featuring native plants Robert and I had cultivated over 30 years. Visitors can sit on benches we donated and read plaques explaining his 30-year career fighting fires across the Sonoran Desert. The scholarship fund for future chemistry teachers has already helped 12 students pursue their dreams at the University of Arizona. Every semester, I get letters from recipients thanking me for making their education possible. Their enthusiasm for science reminds me why I love teaching for 38 years. The Firefighter Family Support Fund has helped 43 families dealing with occupational illness, paying for medical treatments, and living expenses when the breadwinner can no longer work. Last month, I received a photo from a family in Flagstaff. A firefighter with lung disease, his wife, and their 2 young children standing in front of their home that they were able to keep because of Robert's legacy. This is what love looks like. Not the calculated manipulation I endured from Daniel and his family, but genuine care that asks for nothing in return. My pottery has exploded in popularity since moving to Sedona. The tourist market here appreciates handcrafted desert-themed pieces, and I've had 3 gallery showings in 18 months. Last week, a couple from Germany bought one of my vase sets to take home as a reminder of their Arizona vacation. I'm not creating art to fill empty time anymore. I'm creating it because I have something to say, something to give to the world. I've joined a hiking group of women my age who explore the Red Rock trails every Tuesday and Thursday. We call ourselves the Desert Roses, and we've become genuine friends, the kind who check on each other during monsoon season and share holiday dinners because we want to, not because we have to. Margaret is a retired nurse from Ohio who moved here after her husband passed. Linda was a journalist in Chicago who always dreamed of desert sunsets. Susan taught 2nd grade for 40 years in Michigan before discovering she was meant to live among red rocks. We understand each other. We're all building new chapters after loss, after betrayal, after discovering that the lives we thought we were living weren't the lives we actually wanted. Last Christmas, instead of waiting for phone calls that never came, the Desert Roses and I cooked dinner together. We shared stories, laughed until our sides hurt, and watched the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and crimson. It was the most beautiful Christmas I'd had since Robert died. The community college asked me to teach 2 chemistry classes this semester. Part-time, perfect for someone who wants to stay intellectually engaged without being overwhelmed. My students are a mix of traditional college-age kids and returning adults, all hungry to understand how the world works at a molecular level. Teaching again has reminded me who I am beyond someone's mother or grandmother. I'm Dr. Catherine Thompson, chemistry teacher, artist, mountain hiker, desert gardener. I'm a woman with expertise and wisdom and stories worth telling. The house itself has become a sanctuary that friends actually want to visit. Helen comes from San Diego every few months, and we sit on my back patio watching sunset light up the red rocks while sipping wine and planning our next adventure. Next month, we're taking a photography workshop in Monument Valley. Helen has never seen the desert landscape that Robert and I fell in love with 40 years ago. I've heard through mutual acquaintances that Daniel and Melissa had to sell their Phoenix house and downsize significantly. Apparently, business hasn't been great for Daniel since word got around about his family situation. It turns out people don't like doing real estate deals with someone who tried to steal his own mother's home. Emma graduated from ASU last year and moved to Portland, where she's working as a barista while trying to build an art career. About 6 months after my move to Sedona, she showed up at my door with wilted carnations and genuine tears. "Grandma," she sobbed, "I had no idea what Mom and Dad were planning. I swear I didn't know. After you left, they were so angry about the money, about you getting away. It was horrible. I finally understood it was never about your well-being." She'd taken a part-time job because the flow of funds from her parents had dried up. But more importantly, she'd grown up enough to see her parents' greed for what it was. I didn't forgive her immediately. The wounds were too deep. But I made her tea, and we talked. Not about her parents, which was too painful for both of us, but about her art, her dreams, her life. Over the years, Emma has slowly, carefully built a bridge back to me. She visits a few times a year, always bringing small gifts, a book she thought I'd enjoy, a plant for my garden. She never asks for money. She just wants to know her grandmother. The bond between us is different now, more fragile, but also more honest. It's proof that people can grow, can learn from their family's mistakes, and can choose to be better. Tyler is still living with his parents, working part-time jobs, and apparently still bitter about losing his access to Grandma's bank. Some people never learn that the universe doesn't owe them anything. I don't hate any of them anymore. Hatred is too heavy to carry when you're building a new life, but I don't miss the manipulation either. I don't hate them anymore. Hatred is too heavy to carry when you're building a new life, but I don't miss them either. They showed me who they really were, and I believed them. The best revenge isn't elaborate or dramatic. The best revenge is living so well that your enemies become irrelevant to your happiness. I wake up every morning in my adobe house, surrounded by desert silence and red rock beauty. I make coffee in my favorite pottery mug, one I made myself, featuring a design inspired by a sunset Robert and I watched from our back patio 20 years ago. I work in my studio, creating art that people actually want to buy. I hike with friends who genuinely enjoy my company. I teach students who are excited to learn. I support causes that honor Robert's memory and my own values. This is what 76 years old looks like when you refuse to be anyone's burden, anyone's victim, anyone's disappointment. I am Catherine Sullivan Thompson, and I am not anyone's consolation prize. It's never too late to rewrite your story. If this gives you hope for your own new chapters, make sure you're subscribed. If this moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear that age is just a number when it comes to fighting back. Hit subscribe because I'm here to tell stories about justice and people who refuse to stay down. Drop a comment and tell me about your own Catherine moment. Have you had to stand up to a family who underestimated you? What would you have done in her shoes? Your stories fuel my next videos. And if you're living through something like this right now, remember Catherine's power moves. Document everything, change those passwords, get your own attorney. You are never too old to fight for what's yours. Here's the real truth Catherine taught us. Family isn't about blood, it's about respect. Sometimes the family you choose treats you better than the one you were born with. What story should I tell next? Workplace revenge? Neighbor justice? Friendship betrayals? I want to hear about the moments when people who thought they had all the power got exactly what they deserved. Keep choosing yourself. The desert blooms after the harshest storms, and so can you. See you in the next story.